Hey there, Dave Wilson. Dave, I think you're muted. I don't know if you're trying to speak.
Yep,
Yeah, there you go.
I'm here.
Okay. Move your camera down a little bit so we see your whole smiling face. There
Yes.
you
I just bought a new computer, so I'm just setting it up.
It's fun, but my computer every day finds a way to waste an hour of my time.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
I mean, I got one in my head. I got the notion. I guess if you got a new computer, you probably got Windows 11 on it, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
So the bottom row of icons is the taskbar, right?
Mm-hmm.
And in Windows 10, you could have two rows of icons on the taskbar. Okay? You could have a
Yeah.
lot of apps there that all you had to do was click on them and they opened up. And I thought that was great because, there are about 15 or 20 easily that I use regularly. So I like to have them right there. And also, it adds the apps that are open, even if they're not normally on your taskbar. Anyway, it's a very long story. I'll try to shorten it up. So I decided my life would be perfect if I could restore the Windows 10 taskbar to Windows 11, because Windows 11 only lets you do one row of icons. So I went searching around the internet and found what looked like open source software that was vetted, so there were no nasty things in it. And I downloaded it. All it was going to do was just give me back Windows 10 taskbar. I downloaded the exec file and started to do to download the program. My computer froze.
Oh, boy.
Solid. And I couldn't get it to do a damn thing. I ultimately had to take it to Best Buy because I didn't know anybody who was computer savvy enough to fix it. I mean, I did everything that an idiot like me knows to do. I kept booting it up and closing it down and this and that. But they did a great job. They saved it. They saved it. They pulled that nasty program out, took all my files, and reinstalled Windows 11. And that's what
Oh,
it.
wow.
And they're not very expensive. You can get a lot of software help from them for a whole year for like $175. And
Oh, wow.
that's not a lot of money.
There is a
Yeah.
person in Nahant that does that.
Oh, yeah. Who's that?
Will Letourneau.
I don't
He
know.
lives on
I don't know.
Emerald Road.
Do you have a contact file for him?
No,
Or
I'll give it to. I
yeah,
can get it.
email it to me.
Yep. Yep.
That'd be great. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
He
that'd be
does.
nice. I mean, if he's very good, I'd be just as glad to pay him.
Mm,
But those guys, I've been there twice in the past 4 years, and both times they did a great job, and they didn't cost me very. They used to have a really wonderful plan where you got just about everything for like $200 a year, and but now they're much more constricted, but it's still not expensive.
no.
So anyway, all right, I'm going to take a bit of a break here for a minute.
Yeah.
Perky Lynn Spencer with her high school graduation photograph. Hi, Michelle. Well, I gotta get something to eat. I'll be back in a minute. But everybody looks like they're getting on tonight. No complaints.
Well, hello. Dave and Michelle, are you able to hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yes,
Oh,
Lynn.
good. Thank you. At first, I couldn't unmute or get myself on the screen, but and now I see Paul's gone away to get his sandwich. Dave, I'm
Yeah,
glad you're here. Thank you.
He said he was hungry. He had to go get something to eat.
Yeah, I know. I got it. Here's an apple. Hi, Nancy. Nancy, you're muted.
Good to be inside tonight instead of blowing around.
Oh man, I was out for an afternoon walk on Tudor Beach, and yeah, it was brisk. Very, very brisk.
We
Say,
lucky
Nancy,
we
while
lucky we
we're
got you back.
yeah,
Into the water. I'm sorry.
say, Nancy, while we're waiting for others to join, any word on those dead birds seen recently last week?
Not that I know of. I spoke to people at Audubon who had no information. There's a Zoom meeting from the BBC, the Brookline Bird Club about
Yeah.
avian flu.
Okay.
That avian virus. So I think, since it's not the hunting season now, it seems like some kind of illness is the most likely cause, but I don't know any concrete answers.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. Sorry, I had to just walk away and get some paper for my note taking.
I saw some pictures of a number of the birds that people had sent in,
Yeah.
and some of them were kind of bloody, which made me think about, hunting, but there hasn't been hunting allowed, so.
Got it. All right, folks. Well, it is 7:00, and gosh, look who we've got here. I'm Lynn Spencer. I think I've got a quorum, so I can call this meeting of Nahant's Community Preservation Committee to order. Joining me tonight are Clerk Paul Spurn, Nancy Catamo, Alan Goldberg, Dave Wilson, Austin Antrim. Anyone else from the committee? Jim Dolan, are you there? Are you out there? No. I also welcome tonight Deborah Warren and Barbara Beatty, our faithful joiners from the FinCom. I see I've got Trish Aldrich on from Open Space and Recreation and Michelle Capano from the Housing Production Plan Committee. Oh, boy, Paul, you are just flashing all kinds of good stuff up on the screen. But you know, just for fun,
What do you want?
let's do the minutes.
The minutes.
Yeah.
Oh, the minutes. Oh,
Yeah, the minutes.
hold on.
So I did send minutes out from
How's that, Lynn?
that's super duper.
All right.
Okay, so these are the minutes from the February 19th meeting. I sent them out late this afternoon. I hope, you know, committee members, you might have had a chance to read them, but if not, would you be able to read them now while they're on the screen or on your screens? You know, when I was in 4-H club, we used to read the minutes out loud. That that was really good. Oh, I see we've got Tony on as well. Good.
No, I'm the fake town hall.
Oh, that's right. You are the fake town hall. Okay, got it. Oops, I see I misspelled Diane Brandy's name. Somebody check, make a correction. Come on.
I can do that. How is it spelled?
Diana.
No,
D.
Brandy, Brandi, right? Is it Brandy?
Brandi, that's correct, but it's Diana.
Oh, got it. Oh boy, you've got it all over the place.
Right. Okay.
Any other corrections? Take your time, particularly with these review notes.
Excellent review of the Nahant cyber proposal.
Thank you, Nancy. Looking off into the middle distance now. Oh, there's Tony. Yeah.
Yes. The real town hall.
The real Tony, the real town hall. Tony, we're just in review of the minutes. Any other typos, corrections? I see a couple of capitalizations, but I'm not going to worry my head too much about those. Any interest in a motion?
I make a motion to accept the minutes of
I'll
February
second the
19th.
motion.
Okay. Seconded by Austin. All in favor, roll call vote. Nancy,
Aye.
Austin,
Aye.
Ellen,
Aye.
Dave,
Aye.
Paul.
Aye.
Okay, unanimous. Thank you. Paul, would you be kind enough to file those with our
Yep.
ever patient Diane?
Yep, I will.
Okay, all right, good. So folks, last meeting, we were in our review and making motions on grant applications because we've had a review with various applicants. Tonight, I had sent an email out earlier today with kind of the order that I'd like to go through just based on the rows of the spreadsheet. But I do have Tony with me here tonight, and I did have an email from Tony, which he had shared with all of you about the cost on the Little League. So I think we might fairly reasonably quickly be able to address that particular item. That's row number 6 on this spreadsheet.
Yep. Row number 6, otherwise known as application number 3.
Yeah, see, I don't have that on mine, but I got it, Paul. I get the
You
wisdom.
do have it because you made it.
Oh, darn it, you're right. Oh, stop it. It's too early in the meeting to correct me on so many things, spelling, rows, whatever.
Okay. All right, what do you
Excel.
want to show? What do you want to look at?
I want to talk about row number 6,
Right.
application number 3, Little League lighting. Yes, and thank you for putting this up, Paul.
Okay.
So we had quite a discussion last week with Tony and Dave Elmer from the Little League, who have put a lot of effort into this application. Tony, I'll give you the floor since I'm digging a hole for myself already. And you can just tell us the big juicy bits out of this one.
Yeah, rather than kind of recapping the whole email, essentially the estimated total project cost is $105,000, and we're asking for 75 from the CPC. Dave, after sending you this email, he followed up on the Little League's donation, and he spoke with the president of the league. They felt like that they could add the additional 10,000, so for a total of 30,000, but they weren't able to vote on it tonight before this meeting. But it does sound like that's going to work. So that gets you to the 105. Plus, there's going to be in-kind services that rides on top of all that of $5,000 to $15,000, depending on how much, how many hours are put into that. It's hard to quantify at this point. DPW would
Just clarify that for me, Tony. I didn't understand it when I looked at this memo that you made up for today. There's going to be additional in-kind, but that is not included in the project cost. That's what it implies?
correct.
Okay, fine. So they're still asking for 75,000.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Good. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
That's pretty much it. So I'd love to hear from the committee members, their thoughts as they have reviewed both the prior application, the discussions that we've had, and tonight's kind of confirmation of a $75,000 request, which includes a donation from the Little League of, what could be $30,000 if it all gets confirmed, plus $5,000 to $15,000 on top of that of in-kind services. So it seems like if you will, the request we made to the applicant to really dig into this, check their cost, and see about other resources that could be brought to the table has certainly been realized. But other comments?
So I recognize that it's important when we say play ball, we want to play ball and we want to have lights when we play ball. As soon as we can. So, is there any way, we've gotten it down to 75,000, which is great. Is there, this all has to be done in one chunk? Like, it doesn't, there's no way to divide it up over 2 years, or, I'm just trying to think of the overall thing and how we're gonna have to balance all these projects and this being a big portion of it. But I see you envision it as a all-in-one 1-year thing. But could some trenching or something, parts of it be done before, or does it have to all be done in one project, Tony?
I think it would all have to be done in one.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it would all have to be done in one. As far as the pressure on the overall CPC available funds, I did a little bit of more homework with Zach on the gazebo and on Goddard Drive. And I think that I do think gazebo can come down to 10. We'll do that. I mean, I'm sorry, the Goddard Drive can come down to 10 and we'll do that in-house. And on the gazebo, I think we're gonna push that one off to another year. And focus on doing our annual maintenance on it this year. But this summer, we'll do a little bit more of a deeper dive on what's needed there and come back to the CPC next year for that. So trying to reduce some of the pressure on the remaining amount of the CPC budget.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Other comments from the committee?
This is Austin. I think they did a great job of reducing this request, and it's not often that we get an application with a match of that size and volunteer effort. And when you scroll down a little further in Tony's email, it also describes that this project will pay for itself eventually through renting the space. And that will be achieved in about, they estimate 10 years with a 30-year lifespan on the lights. So it will actually eventually create revenue, possibly. So, I think those are great benefits in addition to the obvious recreational benefit for the Little League. So I support this.
Thank you, Austin.
Tony, was I right that you said that rentals would be somewhere between $100 and $200?
Yes, they vary based on who you're renting it to, the
Right.
size of the group,
Right.
and all those things.
Right. So if you do the math, if you're, somewhere between, if you're at $8,000, to raise $8,000, you've got to rent the place out somewhere between 40 and 80 times, depending on whether you get $200 or $100. That's a lot. I just wonder if that isn't overly optimistic.
Well, it might be a little optimistic. Obviously, it's hard to estimate because all of it's dependent on if you actually are going to rent it. I do think, David had reached out to a couple different leagues and heard a lot of feedback from folks saying, yeah, if Nahant had lights, we would absolutely we'd be clamoring to be the next people at the table to rent.
Wow, okay.
But I don't want to overpromise either because it does depend on actually getting it rented.
Yeah.
I think the biggest thing about it is the biggest factor is that our field drains much better than many other fields.
Right.
And what happens is there's a compounding effect of leagues need to make up games at the end of the year because of all their rainouts.
Uh-huh.
And so then by having the lights, both when our field isn't flooded and later in the year, it gives them that ability to, they're searching for places to play to make up
Right.
games.
Right.
So it becomes kind of in demand.
Mhm.
And then again, I forgot to write on this, one of the bullets here, I think that's important, is that, all electrical usage would be paid for by the renter. So they'd be charged either a flat fee, or if it was like in Swampscott, what they do with the Little League is they charge them twice over the year, and they keep track of how many kilowatt hours they utilize, and they basically they don't make, they might do a little bit of an upcharge, but they calculate, actual electric usage and charge the Little League at halfway and then at the end of the
Right.
year.
So would I be wrong if I thought that now that we've got an expenditure against which we want to credit rentals, that we might be taking a very aggressive approach toward renting the field, something above and beyond what we've been doing. And on your accounting, the town gets the money, but essentially you are crediting it toward the money that's been spent on the lighting for the field. Because if you say that if you say this project is paying for itself, the money's coming out of one pocket, the CPC pocket, and going into another pocket, the town budget
I got
pocket.
you. Yep, that's fair. Yep.
So is there a way to put it back in the pocket where the money came from?
Well, it would actually go into like the recreational revolving account.
Uh-huh.
So no, I don't think there's a way to put it back into the CPC.
But Paul, if this does generate revenue through rental and that goes back to the recreation, maybe we'll see less applications from the Little League in the future because they'll have a steady revenue stream.
I think that's a good point.
Yeah, it'd be nice if we could do that with all of our projects, wouldn't it? And then we could think of the CPC as more like seed money.
Well, in some ways it
Which
is,
in a
but
sense, yeah, exactly.
in some ways it really is. It's a good point, though. It's a good point. And I actually really appreciate, Tony, your efforts to actually look more broadly at generating revenues from various aspects of town activities. So I know you've got that going for the ball fields on Nahant Road. It goes to the benefit of the town. It may not actually go back into our fund, but it goes to the benefit of the town.
Right, right.
All right, good comments. Other comments?
Just one. I know parking was brought up at some point in one of the discussions
Mhm.
about this.
Yeah.
Would there be a way to make an agreement with the Johnson School? Maybe the Little League could utilize their parking when it's not being used by the school?
I could over the summer, yeah, I could definitely work with to bring those two together.
Thank you.
And part of that Flash Road Recreation Master Plan, we talked a little bit about a parking study being included in that somehow. And I already talked with the school, well, Tony P over at the school. I'll have to revisit it with whoever the new superintendent ends up being, but we'd like to create a safer environment for parking and vehicular travel in that area. Separating it from the parking that services the fire department and the ball fields that are down there on, on the lower level. Like, encouraging Little League, the upper field parking to be done at the school and walking down is a way to do that.
Yep, good point. Okay,
I have another question. You mentioned something like the revolving recreation fund or something like that. So as a member of the Open Space and Recreation Committee, I don't understand what that fund is and what it's about and where it comes from and what it gets used for.
So the recreation revolving account is used primarily, it isn't tied to the Open Space and Recreation Planning Committee. It's tied to the actual recreation department related to like Park League. I think also sailing program might go through that too. But like right now, a lot of like our parking sticker revenue goes into the recreation revolving account. But I can get you more information about what that account spends, where that money is being, what it's being used for.
I think that would probably fall more under the purview of open space and recreation rather than this committee.
Right,
In my
but
view.
I just was
Yeah,
putting it in the
yep.
whole big mix since he brought it up. But thank you. That would be good to have that information.
Okay, I'm gonna move us along. So, any other questions or comments? I'd be happy to entertain a motion on this.
Lynn,
I'll
I'll
like
make a
to move-
motion. There we
Okay.
go.
Go
I'll make a
ahead.
motion to recommend $75,000 in CPA funds for lighting at the Little League field.
Okay. Did I hear a second?
I'll second that.
Thanks, Dave. Okay, so I've got a motion to allocate $75,000 from the Open Space and Recreation Fund category for the lighting at the Little League field, with a $30,000 match being provided by the Little League organization and another $5,000 to $15,000 in in-kind services. It's been moved and seconded. We'll do a roll call vote on this. Nancy,
Aye.
Austin,
Aye.
Paul,
Aye.
Dave,
Aye.
Ellen?
Hi, and can I ask a question? Or do you want me to
Sure.
wait until did you vote?
Well, we are about to vote, but
Right, so my question then, at the very last minute, I'm sorry, I had to switch from my phone to my computer, but here I am.
okay.
I'm right here. Hi, everybody.
Okay.
Now, when we approved the grant for the life-saving station and some of other projects around town, we've had signage included so that people know that CPC funds are at least in part responsible for the work being done to support the town's resources. I'm wondering if we can address that here or at least somewhere else to make sure, because this is a big grant and, assuming that the numbers work out and it gets fully approved, I'd love to see CPC funding get recognized. I would really think that that's a good thing.
We agree.
Yep.
And we've talked about this on multiple occasions. We really need to set up a formal signage program, period, for all of our grants. And I'd like to suggest, Ellen, that would be a good thing to bring up as new business at the end of this meeting, so we make that happen. Alternatively, we can say to the applicant, you have the responsibility for it. But I think we get into a graphic nightmare, quite honestly.
Yes.
I just run by the lifeguard station every day, and so I see it, the life-saving station every day, so I see the signage right there, and I just haven't seen more of that. I'd love to see more of that around town.
Yeah.
I'm happy to
point.
do it wherever you think is appropriate. I just didn't want to lose the concept.
You're right. You're right. But could I stay with this motion right now?
I.
Okay, good, good. I appreciate that. So we've got a unanimous in support. Thank you, folks.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you, Tony, for doing a lot of work today.
yes, you did.
And probably a lot before today. So thank you again.
Thank you, guys.
All right, folks. Following the order of work on our chart, the next one up is, let me see, is application number 5 or these applications, I've got this all screwed up. Application number 5, which is otherwise row 8.
It is. Okay.
By Gary Dinas for the Nahant cyber proposal, making Nahant the cyber worker capital of the world. With a request that sort of bounced around, and some places I had it coming in at, oh, thank you, Paul. Do you just want to get that big? Can you show me the amount that he's requested on this one? Yeah, $50,000, and I had written it down at 25, so that's incorrect. Folks, we
Well,
have.
it was a 2-year proposal, $25,000.
That's right. That's right. It was $25,000 a year. Good point, Ellen. Thank you for keeping me straight. So folks, we've had various discussions about this. Most recently, we reviewed it on the 19th. We reviewed it again on the 28th. In both situations, at the meeting on the 28th, after hearing from Gary, we had an informal consensus that in the committee's opinion, it did not meet the CPA allowable costs. Gary came back with his justification for why his grant application meets CPA allowable costs. I had also sent this to Stuart Saganor of the Community Preservation Coalition, who also had given his opinion that it did not meet the CPA allowable costs. There continues to be quite a lot of email correspondence that some of you may be hearing and experiencing. Some have opted out. But I do think we need to make a formal vote on this as to whether we support this as an allowable cost or an appropriate program for the town of Nahant. Stunned silence ensues. I know, but any comments from anyone?
I think we're all trying to figure out how to word it.
Yes, I think that's right. Yeah, I still am not convinced that this applies or qualifies for CPA funding, so I would not support this application.
Any further comments before I ask for a motion?
Well, I just want to say that I have great, excuse me, great admiration for Gary's energy and dedication to this. And I really hope he pursues it through other means, because he's talking about extraordinarily important things. It's just not in our shopping cart, and we can't do it. We can't do it legally. And it's not a question of competition with other projects that we favor for one reason or another. The reason that we are able to look at the projects we look at is that we agree that they meet criteria for funding. So we are doing no more and no less on Gary's project than we are on anybody else's.
Right. Thank you, Paul. That's well worded. Anyone else? Is anyone willing to make a motion?
Are you looking for a motion to approve it? or a motion to
No.
agree that it doesn't meet our funding criteria?
I'm looking for a motion, not either to approve or to disapprove.
All right, well, I would, I would like the committee to go on record, so I'm gonna make a proposal that after serious evaluation of the project, that we regretfully fail to see that it meets criteria for our funding and therefore are forced to reject it
Mhm.
or not able to accept it. Well, let's put it that way, not able to accept it.
I would second that, Nancy.
Thank you. I'm writing. Just bear with me a little bit. I never took shorthand. Okay. The motion is, after serious evaluation, we regretfully fail to see that it meets the Nahant Cyber proposal meets our criteria for funding and therefore are not able to recommend support.
This is Ellen. I would just take out that fail to see piece because that leaves it open for dialogue. And I would just say that this proposal does not meet the CPA allowable uses. And we regret that we cannot fund it. If
I'll
that's,
accept,
if
I'll
that is,
accept that amendment.
okay,
Mhm.
thank you. I was just gonna ask if that was all right.
Yeah.
Thank
Yeah.
you. I understand your intent, Paul.
No, no, absolutely right. You're absolutely, you're right on the ball.
Okay, so how's this sound to you? After serious evaluation, we find that the Nahant Cyber proposal does not meet our criteria for funding, and therefore we are not able to recommend support.
Yes,
Sounds
That,
good.
that,
I'll
okay,
accept.
I'm getting some head nods, so I appreciate that. Right, so I've got a second on that, and I'll call for a roll call vote. I'll start with you, Paul,
Aye for this proposal.
Nancy,
Aye.
Austin,
Aye.
Ellen.
Aye for this motion, I'm sorry.
It's an aye to this motion.
Aye for the motion, not for the
Yeah.
proposal, sorry.
Okay. Ellen,
Aye.
Dave,
Aye.
all right. Thank you, folks. Moving on. I'm going to suggest that we skip the next one on this particular schedule, which was the limited mobility beach access, because that's now been superseded or subsumed into the further one down on the spreadsheet by the town of Nahant. Nahant First and Tennis is not eligible. They have withdrawn. So that brings us next to the Nahant Open Space and Recreation Committee with the town of Nahant for the what is called phase 3 of the Bailey's Hill Complex Fort Ruckman restoration. And we're happy to welcome Trish. Yep, there she is, to welcome Trish Aldrich tonight. Trish, you very kindly sent out some additional material over the weekend, which has, some implications on the cost, because right now, we're carrying on our spreadsheet $91,000. At another time, it came down to 84, as I recall. And now I think we've got another cost based on the very detailed work that you've been doing on this. So I'll give you the chance to say, what's the jolly number?
Okay, well, first of all, I'll apologize again for the confusion. I had trouble rolling up the numbers on the online form. So the numbers actually haven't changed, I'm afraid. It's
Oh,
so
okay. So what are you asking for?
yeah, okay. So Paul, can you put up what I sent you?
I should have done that. That's the one thing I didn't prepare. I apologize,
Okay, I
but
was
I'll
just
find
thinking,
it.
so we're all looking at the same thing. It might
Yeah,
be
right.
helpful.
I can't get my thing to load here. I don't know what the problem is.
We give Paul the toughest job
There's
here. You know
always
that?
one stinker here.
Are you calling me a stinker?
No,
No,
no, no, no, no, no,
one
no, no,
app,
no, no.
some app. All right, hold on. What, Trish? Just give me the date that you sent it to me. Oh, wait a minute. Maybe if
It was
I go
Sunday.
Sunday. Oh, that's just yesterday, the
Yeah,
10th.
it was yesterday.
All right, hold on a minute. Let's see if I can
I mean-
find it here. I'm gonna, you can share the agony with me here. All right, so if you see it before I see it, shout. Oh, this is just this morning. All right, now we're on Sunday.
Paul, it was actually Saturday that you had sent it to the group.
Oh,
Oh,
okay.
okay.
So that would be the 9th.
The
Yeah.
9th.
It is, okay. So let's see, it was,
Wayla, oh, go up, go up. Wayla Kahau is me. See,
that's you,
there.
got it. Okay, and there's your little, okay.
Yeah, that's me.
That's you.
So-
Okay, now at the bottom of this should be your, now do you want me to, is this what you want, or do you
Well,
have?
that will work. That will
That
work,
would-
right?
Or maybe the attachment would be easier?
Either one is fine.
Did you put the same thing in the attachment? Is it one of these two? No.
You can go to the Excel spreadsheet there on the attachment.
That one?
Yes.
All right. All right, here it is.
Okay.
Is
So,
that correct?
yes, that's
Okay.
great.
All right,
Okay.
let me make it bigger. Only so we can see it. All
Oh,
right,
full service here. Good.
all right. Tell me
Okay.
anything else you want me to do, tell me. Go ahead.
Stop, stop, stop.
Juggle. No, I don't know. Okay. So, what we want to do is continue the restoration and improvement at Bailey's Hill, the Fort
Right.
Ruckman section of that. So this is the phase 3 project.
Right.
That would accomplish that. We asked Parterre Ecological, a professional land management firm, to prepare a proposal for us, which they did, and which I submitted both with the original application, and then twice I've sent it to Paul. So anyway, so
Yep.
in their experience, which is extensive, they think a 3-year approach is the best, because plants are very good at doing their thing, right? Especially invasive plants of multiplying and coming back. You cut them down and they come back. You can't just do it one time or two times. That really, in their experience, to effectively knock back invasive shrubs and vines, you need a 3-year approach. So that's what they have proposed as the most effective, and that will put us in the best position and get us in the best place. Okay.
All right.
So what I did was take their proposal and break it down into year 1, year 2, and year 3, which is what you see here in those columns. So in year 1, they will prepare a land management plan, which spells out what they're going to do and how they're going to do it. They will give us a draft. We can go back and forth with the Open Space Committee and other people in reviewing it. And then they'll come up with their land management plan at a cost of $5,600.
Yep.
They also will do extensive invasive plant management in year one. That's when the big push is for invasive plant management. They come in with well, first they walk the site and they mark the trees that they want to keep and so on. And they also come in with a forestry mower and mow down and chop up and mulch a bunch of plants. They will also do some hand cutting, pruning, trimming, and so on. It's all spelled out in their proposal,
Right.
more detail than what I'm telling you now.
Right, right.
But so that is for a proposed cost of $47,350 in year one. They will also do some native plant restoration, planting shrubs primarily that are well suited to that site. Will do well there. That's $20,000. And then there's a project management fee for the whole thing. So in their proposal, that is a subtotal of $73,904.
Okay.
We have heard your comments about wanting to put up a sign informing residents of what is going on and where these funds have come from. So there's $200 in there for a sign. There's a subtotal of $74,100. We added in a contingency of 10% because whatever, things happened when the rubber hits the road. So that gets to a project total of $81,500 in year one. We asked Nahant Swim if they would support this project, and they very kindly said yes, and said they would contribute $3,000. So that would make our CPC grant request year one total of $78,514.
And I just rounded it up to 515 because I'm just that kid.
Yeah,
Can't
yeah.
deal with 40 cents. So thank you, Trish.
I hear you.
Yeah,
So
you
year
hear me.
two is basically, a similar approach,
Right.
but the plant management cost is about half, and the planting of native plants is, let's say, half. And then, off you go for a total, right? And then year three, you have to go back and attack things again because they've resprouted and regrown and so on. So there's invasive plant management work of $11,000 in year three.
So Trish, you're giving us fair warning that you'll be coming back next year with the second year of this, and then the third year. Overall, if we look at those 3 years, subtotaling $131,429, we as a
Yes.
committee should be mindful of the fact that we've already invested $41,000 in the northeast slope of Fort Ruckman, and another, I think, $25,000 on the far reach of the Bailey's Hill outcropping. So I guess the point is that the Open Space and Land Use and Recreation Committee had really, as part of their master plan, had been very thorough in looking at the various recreation areas in Nahant and the natural spaces, and it's been advocating basically a managed approach to a natural landscape as opposed to a parked landscape, or a landscape that is just on its own growing wildly, which I can attest to living over there myself. Bittersweet is very successful over there, very successful.
Right.
We should be selling those, by the way, those branches for use in horticultural displays, because they do
No,
that.
you shouldn't, because then you spread the invasive.
No, inside people's houses. Crazy stuff.
Okay.
I've
Then
seen
they
them.
throw them away or
Yeah.
recycle them.
Oh God! And then it goes on. It goes
So
on.
ban that thought.
All right. So anyway, folks, this has been a very thoughtfully conceived and delivered proposal. I'd love to hear further comments from committee members on what they've heard and what they're seeing on the screen.
I asked for this and I still don't understand it. This is the second map you sent, Trish. And in the blue outline is where the work is being done.
That's, yes, that's.
That's
the
Bailey's
proposed-
Hill, and this is Bailey's Hill Park. Okay, right? Oh, this whole thing is Bailey's Hill Park, and this is called Bailey's Hill. Or am I wrong?
That's probably not how any of us would refer to it, but that's how it is on this mass mapper
All
program.
right, all right.
Yeah,
All right, so now to get back to this, which was your map, the photo. So this is just the Bailey's Hill part
No,
we just looked at.
it's the same area, Paul.
yeah.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
that
right.
area.
It's
Here
not
it's
this,
outlining-
it's not this area.
Right.
Okay, that's my point. It's not that.
Sometimes we call that the south slope.
Oh, okay,
Give
good.
it another name because it is south of the north slope, but we've mostly been,
Okay,
the other grant that was proposed by the town has been actively working on that other south slope and doing a very big bunch of removal of invasives and old trees and reestablishing of trails, and that's a whole other grant.
that's this.
That's that, right? So we're
Okay.
only focusing on this and extending further what has been done in the Fort Ruckman area to keep moving further.
Now, wait a minute, you just introduced another term and I don't see it here. Where's Fort Ruckman?
Battery
God.
Gardner Battery.
Gardner Battery.
Battery Gardner,
Right.
otherwise AKA Fort Ruckman. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. I'm getting oriented here.
Now, Paul, I'm going to have to get you your copy of the Military Annals of Nahant so you can
Yeah,
actually
right,
get your
okay.
head right into all
Okay,
this.
all right. I don't want to waste any more of anybody's time. The whole purpose for asking for these maps is I don't really have a good idea of how much of all of this lovely green apostrophe we are actually working on. Okay, we spent $40,000 already, and we might be in for another 130 if you come back 2 more years.
Mhm.
That's $170,000, and how much of this is going to be purified?
All of it to the extent possible for that amount of money. That's what
So
they're
it's
proposing.
so that's in your sites. That
Yes, that entire
okay.
area
All right,
that's
fine.
in the yellow circle in this picture. Yes.
Okay. I was worried that we were just doing a little bit of it. And
No.
that seemed awfully expensive to me. Now, I have some personal experience with natural plantings, and $170,000 for a piece of property this big, that looks like a reasonable amount of money to spend for that. The question is, do we want to spend it? But it's not an unreasonable amount of money to spend. So I'm satisfied in that respect.
Thank you, Paul. Other comments?
It's fair to point out that right now, this is a very old map, and this is not what an aerial view of that would look like, because it doesn't include a lot of the work that's already been done up by the Gardner Battery.
Up here.
This is,
Yeah.
this proceed, there's that little swath. It's part of the beginning of the work, but it's much
Yeah.
more extensive at this point. And, as been said in the grant, this has been allowed for many, many years to just become overgrown. And our effort is to get rid of the things that we don't want and to make a self-sustainable piece of property that requires minimum amount of money put into it in the future. And it's a lot of money, but it's a big mess.
So I'm sorry to hog the discussion, but I want to follow up on what you said, Nancy, because it seems to me that part of this proposal should be looking forward to what needs to be done after year 3 or starting with year 3, if we can dispense with the expenditure of year 3 because things went so well in years 1 and 2. But there ought to be guidelines that include what needs to be done and who's going to do it. Nancy, correct me if I'm wrong, but there was a learning curve that the, excuse me, that the town employees who did such a wonderful job of this eventually had to go through to get to the point where they were doing the kind of thing you hope that they would do. And so that should be part of the proposal so that, if we have a new director of public works, this person doesn't have to go back to square one and learn what needs to be known to keep a natural area self-sustaining. There ought to be rules and guidelines. So
Yeah.
I would like to
Isn't that
propose-
part of the master plan, Paul?
That's what I was
Is it?
just gonna say.
Okay, good.
Yeah, I think that's part of their grant application,
Right.
Okay,
which was
So-
quite thorough.
very good.
But I
One other
think the
point
point-
is that this company has the ability to use and the licenses to use chemicals if necessary, which are DPW, which has proven itself to be able to do a lot. It doesn't have this machine that chews up forests, our department, and it doesn't have the ability to use chemicals, which sometimes are necessary to control these invasive species.
I think Paul's brought up an interesting point there is with what we're learning over here. And, I just can think of another area in Nahant where we also have a lot of wild growth going on, and the Heritage Trail goes through some part of this. Is what we are learning here going to also be applied, for instance, at some point to the lowlands area? Is that on the radar for open space and recreation, Trish?
So the Heritage Trail going through the lowlands area and all that.
Well, the lowlands is full of the same kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Even,
I don't think we've gotten specific about that. I mean, we've been focusing on Lodge Park and Bailey's Hill as the first two big
Right.
projects we were gonna bite off and then use as models for work in the future. So,
Mhm.
and
Well,
certainly there will be lessons things learned, say at Bailey's Hill, that then could be applied at another site, because presumably part of the land management plan will talk about, how to handle XYZ plant. I mean, it'll be species specific, some of the recommendations, so they could easily be applied elsewhere.
okay. Thank
I
you.
would think that that is something that we're interested in. People ask us, like, why aren't you doing this? And like what Trish says is we're focusing on these other two areas. The DPW does a lot of work back there on their own in terms of manually trying to control things, and has done a great job. But I think in the future, that would be an area of concern.
Thank you. Okay. Committee, other comments or questions?
So, Lynn, what kind of shape are we in if we approve this year's grant proposal and something catastrophic happens and we can't fund next year's proposal? Trish, is that water down the drain?
Is the work that would have been done in year one water down the drain?
Yeah. I mean, those invasives, they're just out there waiting for an opportunity.
They are. That's what they do.
That's what
They do it very
right.
well.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, obviously it would be unfortunate, but things happen. So I guess there would just be an adjustment. I mean, if it was left totally alone, probably most of the invasive plants would come back pretty quickly. That's what they do. That's what they're good at. So.
I think the point is being heard. think that sometimes we take risks.
Yeah.
This is Ellen. I do have a question, if that's okay.
Yep.
Trish, so just a couple questions about the proposal itself, just looking at your spreadsheet. So 47,000 for invasives in year one, as well as native plant restoration in year one. I guess, did you negotiate with them at all on these numbers, or do you think that they're reasonable? Do you think that they could actually do invasive plant management and native plant restoration in 1 year versus invasive plant management and mulching and watching in year one, and then maybe year two doing the native plants? I don't know how you scoped the project work, and if there's any way to shuffle any of these things around, if that makes sense. Or even get some of the numbers down even. I don't know what this process was like from your perspective.
I guess I didn't really juggle the numbers too much with Miles O'Connor. We have worked with him before. He did that work at Bailey's Hill, the Fort Ruckman area, and he was very good. And his crew seemed very good, and we've spent time with him up at Lodge Park as well. He just seems to really know his stuff. So I looked over his whatever 5 or longer page proposal, and based on my experience of 30 years in the conservation field, it seemed reasonable to me. So
okay.
I think that's
I mean,
the
it
answer.
is true. You get in the field and sometimes things change a little bit. That happens. But I mean, he's very reasonable, experienced, and willing to work with us, definitely. So if we needed to juggle some things for budgeting purposes, he would do the best he could and what still made sense from an ecological point of view.
Right.
I guess fair question.
Yeah, just trying to, incorporate what Paul has brought up with the actual proposal and say, well, could this still be funded if things had to get moved around a bit? Is a question. That's all.
Thank you, Ellen. Other questions or comments? I'd be happy to entertain a motion.
Lynn, I'll make a motion to recommend $78,515. Sorry, $78,515,000 of CPA funds for this open space project.
Okay, thank you, Austin. Can I hear a second?
I'll second that.
Dave, you're on it tonight. I gotta hand it to you. Okay. All right, folks. So I have a motion to support, recommend $78,515 from the open space recreation category for support for this town, for the Bailey's Hill, Fort Ruckman area, continuing reclamation. And I'd like to do a roll call vote on this. And I'd like to start with Nancy Catalmo.
Aye.
Austin.
Aye.
Ellen.
Aye.
Dave.
Aye.
Paul.
Aye.
Chair votes aye, unanimous. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Good discussion, and thank you, Trish, for all of your efforts to put this forward in such a complete and thorough way.
Well, thank you for all your time and effort. This is great. Thank you very much.
Okay, very
Thank
good.
you, George.
All right, so moving down through this spreadsheet, the next is the Town of Nahant's application for the Bailey's Hill gazebo. Tony, I heard you comment on this earlier today. Do you want to just, for the record, sort of put it on record at this point?
Yeah, the town will withdraw this application. There's still improvements to be done at the gazebo. In speaking with our DPW superintendent, he felt like we could make those necessary repairs, as we do every spring. But we will, want to take a closer look at the gazebo for an application next year.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Tony. So with that, we're taking this off the roster for this year's consideration. And we can next go to the beach access mats and wheelchair application from the town of Nahant. This was we also had another application on this matter from Josie Rees, but she has actually said that her application can be withdrawn in favor of the town of Nahant's application, which was their application was $25,000. In the recent meeting, Tony actually asked that be amended to be $50,000. And so that's what's in front of us. This would deal with the access to the beaches at Short, Canoe, and the small beach at the end of Gardner Drive. Gardner Drive. It had a G. Gardner Drive, which someday I ought to go down and take a look. I didn't really ever know that existed. So, folks, Tony, do you have any further things you want to tell us about with this grant application?
The follow-up was to find out if there was any match from Josie's that was going to be added to this one. And in speaking with Josie, she didn't have a match. She put in for a match, but she didn't actually have a match secured. She was suggesting that we seek additional funding to be added to it. So there is no match involved in this. And we're still working out the getting a quote from our metal fabricator on the ramp portion for Tudor Beach. But we had kind of gone through everything else in detail at a previous meeting. I don't know if you want me to go through all that again.
No, not necessarily,
I figured.
unless other people have questions.
Well,
The ramp for Tudor Beach, I'm glad to be reminded of. That is a very long ramp. So I will be interested in that, but I do not want to have this motion hang up on that at this time. That's my preference. But committee members, you tell me.
Tony, is there any low-hanging grants from ADA standpoint that we could have access to?
We don't have an ADA plan, and that's usually a requirement for those grants.
There's a section in the open space and recreation which deals with the needs and was done by our consultants. I don't know if I can't remember it specifically enough, but so that wouldn't be good enough. It had to be their own ADA plan.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
Well, most ADA related grants require you to have a full ADA plan. That's a prerequisite. So, I mean, if we need to seek additional funds, if there are grants that we could potentially be eligible for, we'll go after them. But most of the time, without that plan, I think you'd have trouble getting it.
Well, this begs the question about why isn't there an ADA plan for the town of Nahant?
I don't know if it was ever if it was ever proposed or if it's ever really come up.
So there is a municipal grant application that is open from May
Right.
to June. And it does not look like it requires the ADA plan that you're talking about. I might be wrong. I'm looking at the Massachusetts Office on Disability, and there's an improvement grant, right? Sorry, my dog, here's my daughter coming home from work.
No, don't do that. We love the dog. I want to hear your voice. I want to hear what you have to say. So the
Well, I'm
dog's
just
fine.
saying, there's a grant, there's a municipal, I'm looking at Massachusetts Office on Disability grant, and there's something there, and that's opening up soon. Might be possibility.
But for a beach access,
Well, it doesn't say exactly, but, so I would wonder if it would be eligible. It's, projects that remove barriers and create and improve accessible features and programmatic access for people with disabilities. And they have planning grants as well. I can't put the link in the chat because I don't think I'm allowed to chat with anybody because I'm not town hall. But Tony, I can email you just this link that I'm looking at right now. I mean, even if it's not this year, if it's whatever, it could be worth, I mean, it might even be this year if this,
Yeah.
right? Who knows?
Yeah.
I'm going to send you this link, Tony.
Okay.
It might be also helpful to talk to other towns around here who have those and ask them if there's any ADA funding that helped them secure those.
it's a pretty sizable investment. And the question is, I mean, obviously it's going to serve a population that who currently don't enjoy access to the beach or find it difficult to get access to the beach. But it is a pretty substantial investment. This was going to include the beach mats, which allow both limited mobility pedestrian access as well as wheelchair access. And this was going to purchase a wheelchair accessible, a wheelchair that is accessible for beach use. And then as I was writing in the notes, we then have the interesting job of administering access to that wheelchair. Which Tony had shared some ideas with us, shared some ideas at our last meeting about how that might be managed. But it certainly is going to be, I hate to say it, one more thing for you, Tony. One more thing.
That's all right though. I mean, if we get this grant, I think first thing I want to find out is what's that ramp, going to be quoted at. And then what I was budgeting this grant originally, I was budgeting 3 30-foot sections of boardwalk or mat that we could try in these different locations and see how they work, see how they survive.
Okay.
So it's I'm kind of working it down that way, so that I guess my point is I don't know if I'll need to go for another grant, to add to this or not yet. But happy to look into that one that Ellen's going to share with us.
Okay.
Yeah, and I did see, I just did a little more digging in just obviously 30 seconds, but they have funded access to beaches or lakes to improve access.
Oh, good.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
that's encouraging.
Like it
I was
looks
thinking-
really good.
I was thinking it was really building access. So
No.
excuse my skepticism. I'm glad to hear that.
No, I'm psyched. I just emailed it to you, Tony.
Thank you.
Does it say whether it can be the primary, the primary funding for a project, or does it have to be matched, or do they say anything of the sort?
Not that I'm seeing. It just looks like it's a municipal ADA improvement grant program.
Wow.
Right.
Well, why don't we make our discussion of a motion that it be contingent on a full faith effort by the town to find this funding from the source that Ellen is located.
We don't even know if we need to do that yet, though. I don't know what the price of the ramp is gonna be. We might be able to accomplish all these things with, you know, just with the CPC funding.
Well, what I'm saying is, as an alternative to the CPC funding.
Oh,
Why don't you make a motion so we can actually have it in front of us? Oh,
All right, let me think about that for a minute. Well, I don't want to be too draconian here. If I were to say that any proposal to fund this with CPC funds is contingent upon the town making a full faith effort prior to accessing funds to get alternative support from the state, how would that sit with the crowd?
remember, we're going to have to take this to town meeting.
Right, exactly.
So we could, I thought what you were saying in the beginning, part of the discussion is that you would be considering recommending a grant of $50,000 conditional on a good faith effort to secure additional funding. That's what I thought I heard you say.
Not additional funding, but
Alternative funding. How's
alternative
that?
funding. Yeah, alternative.
Okay. But it was a good faith effort. It wasn't necessarily requiring that it be secured.
No, that's
the
correct.
difference.
Oh, no,
Okay.
absolutely right. Absolutely right.
Okay.
Yeah, but the details of good faith are maybe a little bit beyond my bureaucratic experience. So
yeah,
that's my intent. I don't know exactly how you go about getting it and what the parameters would be.
yeah, I do think that there's that's fraught with interpretation. Might I suggest that we would consider going back to a lesser amount, such as what you had initially suggested, Tony, which is $25,000 to get this started? And then, you can go on to see if you can find additional funding. You can get this started with the beach mat installation. You may be able to, I don't even know the cost of the wheelchair. The bigger cost, and to me, it's fraught with a lot of things, but the bigger cost is that ramp to Tudor Beach, which has got to be at least a 60-foot ramp, which is going to have at least a 5-foot turn landing, I think it's every 30 feet. So it's quite an endeavor.
Lynn, I just want to make a comment that the other application trying to achieve the same thing was withdrawn.
That's right.
With
Yeah.
the understanding that Tony would increase his application to make more areas more accessible than his initial application.
Well,
I think I would make a motion for the $50,000 ask for this project and then trust that the town will look into that grant. Because I'm sure there will be more costs for access in the future.
so are you making a recommendation for the
Yes.
$50,000 without any conditions?
Correct.
Okay. Can I have a second to that motion?
Wait, does that mean we're not asking the town to look at other possible funding sources?
That's exactly what I just said, Nancy.
Okay, I just wanted to make.
It's withdrawing that conditional aspect of it. So it's simply a motion to recommend $50,000 under open space and recreation for beach accessibility improvements. That's the motion. So I'm looking for a second. If there is no second, then I'm looking for another motion.
I'll second that.
Okay. So let's go into further discussion on this. Anyone?
Well, I'd like to say I was really encouraged by how much Ellen was able to find out in short order under the gun. And I'd like to see that incorporated into this proposal somehow or other.
Are you
So-
making an amendment? Or do you want to have further discussion about that before it goes further?
I think I'd love to hear from somebody else.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Paul.
I think that you're gonna find state grant opportunities for a lot of applications that are before you. You know, the project before this was a 3-year commitment for open space, and we have an open space plan. There's a ton of state funding opportunities that could be sought after to supplement that application. It's not uncommon that you have that opportunity to seek that additional funding. I think it's awkward to set that as a contingency of this funding.
So you bring up a good point. I think what you're saying, I think what the positive thing I heard you say, Tony, is let's encourage other applicants, once they have their projects clearly in focus, under focus, especially when there's multiple year elements to it, to seek additional funding as, matches or encouragement, just in the same way that the Little League lighting group came together.
Yeah, and I'm gonna look into that I'm gonna look into that grant that Ellen forwarded me, regardless of whether you included it as a contingency of your grant.
Yeah. I would caution the committee about making a conditional recommendation to the town meeting. I think that we could properly say in good faith, Tony, seek other sources of funding and keep us apprised of it. And maybe we would even have a temperature check about that before the town meeting.
Yeah,
I
I
think
may have already
it's-
applied by then.
Yeah, you could actually make the telephone or the email inquiry tomorrow, and tomorrow find out a little bit more about it.
Mhm.
But I think I would be cautious about making this motion conditional on a good faith effort to secure alternative funding, because I don't know how I would actually properly judge what a good faith effort would be without parking myself in Tony's office, and I'm not going to do that.
My comment was more so on the side of, this is for improving handicap access to recreational spaces. And to put a contingency on that topic and not put contingency on other topics that are in front of the committee, it doesn't seem fair. And that's not me personally as the applicant. I'm talking about, what we're trying to accomplish with the grant. And I think that might be the wrong message to send to a town meeting. But I will look into it either way.
So I'm the one who asked the question originally, and I was just asking because I believe there's a big push for ADA help for people that I thought we might be able to find them easily. But I agree with Lynn and other people's comments that we shouldn't make a contingent. In this, so I guess I'm changing a little bit and supporting Austin's proposal.
Well, Tony, I was very glad to hear what you said, but it also highlights the fact that, and I'm sure you face this every day, the limitations of a small town with a limited administrative staff and budget, trying to find its way through all sorts of rigmarole, regulations, rules, as well as finding supplementary funding, which to some extent I'm sure is out there. It's just a question of whether you have the time and expertise to find it. So maybe one thing that this committee should look at is a way to help the town fund the kind of resources that it needs to make the most of state support or federal government support.
And you know, Paul, it's a great point, and I'd like to remind the committee that we've done that on multiple occasions. There's been, you know, Massachusetts Preservation Projects Fund money going into the public library, to the Ellingwood Chapel, to many years ago, the town hall had $100,000 grant. But I think if your point is well taken, it sort of puts the onus on, for instance, if there was an ADA access committee for the town of Nahant, which many towns have, you know, it'd be great if that committee could take up the baton for something like this. We're also then returning to our good friends at Open Space and Recreations to say, hey, maybe you should look at, you know, what the grants possibilities are for phase 2 and 3 of the Bailey's Hill Fort Ruckman project. So I think it's a good point. And yeah, and it's great to recognize, you know, Tony and his staff have a lot on their plates already.
Yeah, Lynn, in fact, I wasn't looking in that direction. I was turning around looking in the other direction and saying that couldn't we help the town with the kind of resources that the town needs to have an expert working for town, either regularly on the staff or periodically when funding is being sought, to really delve into the details of finding the funding. You know,
so are you suggesting, Paul, that the administrative funds that we have might be applied towards that, towards some sort of grant support?
Yeah, we could do that. Exactly. And maybe even on an ongoing basis, you know, make sure that the town is using its money and resources in the absolutely most effective way to multiply the impact of town money that we must spend by supplementing it with state and presumably federal funding.
My point is that volunteers like me had written those MPPF grant applications.
Exactly right. That's why
and I have a limit on that kind of
that's
fund.
right. And also, not the next person, you know, who submits a grant like that may not even have your expertise, right?
So, so we do have administrative funds. I guess I will defer to Tony at this point to say, how feasible is it for you to actually come to us at times for additional support that we might consider? And I'd have to actually look carefully at how our administrative funds can properly be used, because I think that's an issue. But I mean, do you need a grant writer, Tony?
This is a long, I'll try and sum it up quickly. It's not so much grant writing. we do a pretty good job at grant writing. And sometimes that comes through volunteer help, like a committee, or sometimes we have consultants work on that on our behalf. It's more so managing the grants. If you know, following up through the process of trying to get them, if you do get them, then managing them. And that's where staffing becomes problematic. It's
Yeah.
well, there's too many things on our plate.
Mhm.
It's hard to manage it all at the same time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I appreciate that support, Paul and the rest of the committee. I don't know how. I think there's probably some way that could help us out. I just don't know how to articulate that
Right.
on the spot.
Right.
But it's nice to have the discussion and to feel like there's a sense of we can pull together. So that's what if you hear anything, hear that, Tony.
Yeah.
Yes.
Definitely so.
Okay, so I'd like to return to the motion that's on the table. I have not, we've had some discussion about it. There was the idea of an amendment floating around, but I don't hear the amendment coming into fruition. So right now I have a motion to recommend $50,000 from recreation and an open space for the beach accessibility project. Any further discussion about that?
I will second that motion.
Okay, it was seconded, but I can have a
Okay,
third.
sorry. That's right. I think Dave seconded it.
Yeah, Dave has got that job tonight. He's the
Great,
seconder.
okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'll third it then.
Okay, I got a third on that one. Thanks, folks. All right. All in favor of this motion. And I'll start with you, Nancy. Third.
Aye.
Aye. Austin,
Aye.
Ellen,
Aye.
Paul,
Aye.
Dave.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. I've got a unanimous vote and a very interesting discussion. Thank you very much. With
And I owe you a
revised,
amended application. Yep, I'll do that.
Yep. Yeah, I need that revised application. Okay, folks, we are really coming down to the end, almost the end of this. So I'm going to try to keep at this tonight because we can come up with some numbers. Next up is the Johnson School Nahant Garden Club Boulder Scramble in the Forest Playground with an application for $15,606. They are proposing a match of $822 for a total project costs of $16,428. We had quite a discussion with Kevin Andrews about this. I'd like to just politely suggest that rather than the $6, that we just round this to $15,600. This would be under the open space and recreation category, which is we've got a lot of activity on that front this year. But I'm looking for any further comments about this before we consider a motion.
No.
Well, maybe I could consider a motion.
I'll make the motion that we approve this Boulder City for $15,600.
Thank you, Dave. Okay.
Nancy can second it.
I'll second it.
Thanks, Dave. Got it. Okay, folks. Very good. So we've got a motion on the table. Any further discussion about the motion? Hearing no further comments or discussion, we will proceed with a roll call vote for the motion in support of the Boulder Scramble in the Forest Playground for $15,600. All in favor, Nancy,
Aye.
Austin,
Aye.
Ellen,
Hi.
Paul,
Aye.
Dave?
I,
Chair votes in support, another unanimous motion. Okay. Right. So on my little spreadsheet, which I've been running as we've gone along, I am coming up with a subtotal, which now includes the $10,000 for administrative costs, the 3 bonds for $40,000, $52,000, and $60,000 respectively. I'm coming up with a subtotal of $500,115. Now, I bet smarter heads than I have been doing the same thing. Ellen, I'm looking at you. You're the smarter head. Just so, but we'll be returning to this, but this is so we could get this kind of in front of us. We have funding available based on this year's surcharge with a 50, assuming a 50% state match. We have funding available of $435,569. We have accumulated, we have the available general reserve of $169,664. We have a housing reserve of $53,098. And then we have interest that has been earned on our reserve accounts of $18,018. Our total funding exclusive of the housing reserve. And you remember, Nancy, last week we talked about how that housing request for this year will probably be funded in part from that housing reserve, but just
Right.
set that aside for the moment. We have $623,251. So we would continue to maintain a, reasonable reserve. And we never know, we might get lucky and the state match might be higher than the 50%, which it has been in the past.
Yeah, but we've been hearing doom and gloom from them regarding what's coming.
Yep, we have. And so that's why we want to keep it at this basis. Always me, the glass is half full, Paul's drinking from it.
So
Anyway.
could it be less than 50%?
It could, but that's not what we're seeing in terms of what the apportionments have been.
Okay.
And believe me, I run this by Allison because, and Tony, please, every time you see Allison for us, would you say thanks, please? Thanks, Allison. But she does a really good job of helping us with this. The other place that we have an opportunity to sort of supplement this is clawbacks from past grants that are out there for a while that have not, seen activity or need activity. And Tony and I have talked about this. I've sent him along the spreadsheet that Allison has provided to us with the request that he actually circle some of the things that potentially could be considered as clawbacks. We don't have to go into that in detail tonight, but I would ask Tony if you could possibly annotate that spreadsheet so we could consider it next week.
Okay.
Okay. So what we're doing is just sort of running down to our deadline, which is to get to this to the FinCom for their meeting on March 29th or 28th. I beg your pardon. So next week, I'd like to sort of go back at this again with the great job of assigning who's going to write the articles. I already have one person who's actually, spoken so positively about the Flash Rose master plan that Paul's been sort of, for the moment, got that one.
Right.
But others of you, if you can think about articles that you would be interested in drafting, that would be helpful. We don't have to
How
talk
many-
about that tonight. We'll talk about that next week.
Yeah, how many have we got left, Lynn, roughly?
Oh, you're the only one that put your hand up enough. I
No,
didn't put anyone.
no. In terms of proposals, how
This
many?
is it, Paul.
We did it.
We did it, Paul.
Yeah, I know, but we knocked them off. How many did we knock off, right? So,
So what has been excluded is the Nahant Cyber,
right,
the limited mobility access from
Right.
Josie Reese, the
right,
Nahant Tennis,
right.
the gazebo,
That's,
and the Splash at Flash.
okay, so that's 5.
Yeah.
All right, so 12 minus 5 is 7, and we have how many people on our committee?
Oh, I can see where you're going. Like it, like it.
So, pick your favorites, folks. There's one for you. There's one for
Thank you,
everyone.
Paul. Thank you, Paul.
One
That's a
for
great
everyone.
idea. All right. Think about it, folks. Put it under your pillow. Really think about, where this wants to go. But we will meet next Monday. I'll send this spreadsheet out so it can be checked again. But this is the time that we're going to start drafting the articles. And, maybe we'll really, oh gosh, I can't meet next Monday. I'm so sorry. That's the 18th, right? Damn it.
Yes.
Yes.
Any chance I've got to be in Wales? Nobody in this committee knows where Wales is, even in Massachusetts, I bet.
No.
No. Actually, a smaller town in top of population, Tony, than Nahant. 2,900 people in the hill towns just beyond Sturbridge
Wow.
in Monson, right at the edge of Monson.
So, Lynn, we do need to
Could
meet
we,
next week, don't we?
yeah, could we meet by any chance on the 19th?
Tuesday.
Yeah,
I can't make it, so
we can't.
any other day.
Wednesday, the 20th?
So I can't make it on that day. It's Historical Society, and the 21st is a swim meeting, which also involves Ellen. It's a bad week.
Is anyone ever up for a 6 o'clock meeting?
Sure, it's fine with me.
Yeah, it's fine.
I could do it.
If we could do it at 6 o'clock on the 19th, would that work, Dave?
Yeah, that'd be fine.
Okay, so who cannot attend 6 o'clock on Tuesday, the 19th?
I'm not 100% sure, but I believe I can make that.
Good. Maybe
Okay.
we can get it under an hour. Lynn, what do you
Yes,
think?
we can. I think we really can.
Yeah.
Because we're just going to be, well, not just, but we're going to be assigning things and we'll be looking at the clawbacks. And Tony, if you could get those to us so that maybe they even can be distributed, that'd be great. And what I'd be looking for, that spreadsheet they're all highlighted in yellow. If you just make a circle around it or do some kind of check mark that we could consider as clawbacks, that would be helpful.
It would, what would be helpful with a lot of these is pulling the language that authorized them, like the motion or the town meeting article. Let me see if that would probably be the next step.
You know what, Tony? I have
Yeah.
that.
Do you?
Whoa.
Well, because I've been with this. Is there anyone on this that shouldn't? I've been with this so long. I have files that go back 20 years. Now, I shouldn't say that so unequivocally because there were times that I was not chairman. So sometimes I would have them as a result of what the chairman was sending me. You should have the warrants though. Don't you have
Oh,
a
yeah,
library
no,
of
I just have
warrants?
to, yeah, I just have to. Is Nancy still on the call too?
Mhm.
Yeah,
Nancy, one of these, if you don't mind taking a look at this one, is the open space master plan. And there's a balance there of 29,950.
Oh, that's a big nut.
Is that $29,950 or 2,950?
For
29,000.
You see it?
29,
What?
almost $30,000 it says.
but that was for,
What?
that was what the grant was for.
So maybe has that not been, have they not been paid?
That was
MAPC?
the, I can't believe they didn't send us their bill because they worked with us. I guess we'd have to ask that of Allison.
All right, I'll ask Allison.
Ask Allison. That's a big chunk. Ooh.
Right, but that was what we agreed to pay these people, our
Hmm.
consultants.
So maybe this just isn't up to date.
Maybe.
I'll ask Allison. It says as of March 4th. So. Yeah, I'll do some
Okay.
homework on this and try to get it to you guys by the end of the week.
That'd be great. Thank you. Okay, so what we want to do is have a meeting at 6 o'clock on Tuesday, the 19th. Paul, if you would be kind enough to work
Yeah.
with Diane to post that.
Yep.
We will make that a 1-hour meeting, and we will be, everybody ready with who's going to pick what for the articles they want to draft. And then Tony will review what you give us as a clawback.
Lynn, will we get a new Zoom for that? I have all the Zooms saved in my calendar already, so are we gonna get a new Zoom meeting for the meeting on the 19th, on the
Yep, I'm doing
Yep.
that right now.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay.
Which account are you using, Paul?
Yours, Barletta.
A Barletta. Okay, that should be good.
Okay.
I
It
think
worked tonight. It was
school
perfect.
Yeah, no, school committee meets on Tuesday nights, but I think they're on the B Blair account, so
Mhm.
should be good.
Okay. Great. Folks, I am looking for a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Okay. Second.
Aye.
Okay. All in favor? Nancy,
Aye.
Austin,
Aye.
Ellen,
Aye.
Paul,
Aye.
Dave.
Aye.
Okay. We are adjourned. Thank you to Barbara and Debbie and Deborah and Michelle for being in our meeting.
Yes, thank you for coming.
And we'll do this next Tuesday. Thanks very much, folks.
Okay.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night.
Good
now.
night. Thank you all.
Good night.